Hola, guapas, and welcome to the Hola Guapa podcast. For those of you who are new to the show, I'm your host, Nisha Batesh. I'm also the founder and creative at Hola Guapa, a digital community of 10,000 artists from all over the world, a blog, a website, this podcast, and most recently, my very own small batch slow fashion line. On this podcast, we dismantled the limiting stories and stereotypes holding creative entrepreneurs back, and together we redefine what it truly means to be a successful artist. In 2020, the global pandemic known as COVID-19 hit and affected life as we all knew it. Now, jewelry designer Erin Melendez saw this challenge as an opportunity and started her wildly successful business out of an RV as she transitioned from her former career in fashion merchandising and embarked on a new creative journey all her own. In this episode, we talk about what it was like to overcome the challenges she faced as a business owner on the open road, what motivates her to create art that supports self-expression, and how she managed to land a holiday pop-up at Nordstrom's only a few years into launching her new business, Lady Luck Concepts. So whether you're an aspiring small business owner, are curious about jewelry design, or simply looking to feel inspired by Erin's story, then this is the creative conversation for you. And with that, let's get into the show.
Hello. My name is Erin Melendez. I'm the owner of Lady Luck Concepts, which is which it is and may morph into something else. Who knows? It is a big energy small business that specializes in one of a kind, big, bold earrings. And I do mean big. Um, Oversized is the proper word and term. We also have brand merch, like sweatshirts. Eventually, I'll be merging into wall art. I mean, all things creative. But I started this journey and all of this by accident
Oh
at
my
the
God.
beginning of the
Okay.
pandemic.
Yeah, take us back to the
And
beginning.
the beginning of, well, when everybody started crafting, I want to say, before it turns into a actual business, right? It started by accident. My younger sister said that she wanted to try to do earrings together. We were looking for something to kind of fill time, and I told her yes. So I bought everything we needed and we started our earring business together. And then she got a big wig job. And my store, I was a visual manager for Nordstrom in Miami, and my store was closing. And so I had the option of a severance or taking a position as a visual merchandiser. And if you know how expensive Miami is, you can't live with a family of four on a visual merchandiser salary and your husband's salary. It just is not possible. Or it is, but it wasn't foreseeable for me. Like, I just didn't see how it was going to work. So I took the severance. My husband and I bought a travel trailer. We hit the road and traveled for 2 years, and I worked on my business in the camper. And
Oh
it
my
was
God.
it was absolutely fun, absolutely stressful. It was crazy working in such a tight space. But that's just something that, you know, I knew I had to keep doing. Like my first drop, I sold out in 15 minutes. And I just kind of feel like when the universe is telling you something and a direction to go in, you just go. I
Yes.
never imagined myself owning a jewelry brand. I mean, when I was a kid, I made jewelry out of perler beads.
Okay. Yes.
I used to do custom shoes and custom book bags and shirts. I've always been an artist. My entire family were all artists. So I just kind of went with it. I let it be a creative outlet. I let it be something that helped me through my depression, through crazy life situations, through the pandemic. It just everything just kind of poured out, and people just really responded well. And I don't know, it just kind of became what it is, and we're kind of rolling with it wherever direction it goes.
That is such a wild story, and there's like so many things that I want to touch on there. I think first and foremost, major kudos to you for, kind of being hit with a gnarly challenge that you and your husband had to face together. And it sounds like make some decisions for your family and just to turn that into an opportunity, I think is just a lesson in and of itself. And to keep listening to your gut and your intuition and knowing that you've kind of always had this sense to you about being a maker and using your hands to, try different mediums and landing on earrings, which, you said you didn't initially ever plan to be a jewelry designer, but listening to the feedback and what your audience was telling you, I think is so, so cool. And there's just so many little like nuggets even within that, summarized version of your story that I think a lot of creatives can really relate to and kind of lean into as a good reminder. I wanna kind of go, I guess, back to the beginning of when you started posting on Instagram. So you had this career change, you made a decision, and you said you bought a bunch of supplies with your sister. Like, did you do research, or like how did you know that it was going to be jewelry? Was it like how kind of take us back to that moment, and let's like dive a little bit deeper because I want to know, like as you mentioned, there's so many jewelry brands, and it's when a lot of other designers and creatives kind of started to do the same thing and take that same journey and path, but
Yeah.
you've really set yourself apart. And I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into how you did that.
Thank you. It took some time, really. I mean, my sister was the one who basically opened the polymer clay world to me. She was sending me things left and right. As a visual manager, though, my favorite department to work in was accessories and jewelry. So I've always been able to touch, feel, like look at a lot of different makers. I think there is one, I think it's called Bauble Bar, which is one that I used to just obsess over.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, the thing is that jewelry for me was never really something that was like I was super passionate about because there was never anything that stood out to me.
Hmm.
Like everything, I mean, since I was a kid, I've worn like massive hoops and like
Yeah.
big earrings. Or if I had a statement necklace, it was really a big, bold statement necklace. I think it's a staple to have a good pair of gold hoops, small pair of gold hoops. That's like, that's awesome. But I just never found anything that was like really, okay, dang, I could wear a really easy, white t-shirt and some earrings and it totally sets it apart. And so I kind of just, I realized that there was, I don't want to say niche because I don't want to use the word niche, but there was like a place that was missing in the polymer clay world, and that was like big and bold. And it didn't really happen um, at the beginning. Like I was just still trying to figure out. I mean, I was doing very different things than what I was seeing. A lot of, 3D sort of polymer clay pieces, trying to push, was putting lavender in clay and, random stuff in clay before it was like a really big thing, and just challenging myself. And eventually, I just really gained my voice
Hmm.
in the polymer clay world and just started challenging myself to not necessarily use like cutters that everyone has access to,
Yeah.
or looking at a lot of art and sculptures and saying like, how could I incorporate this into earrings? How can I make this wearable? How can like when you walk down the street and you see a pair of earrings, you're like, those have to be Lady Luck. Like that has to be, a Lady Luck pair of earrings. And also too, I think my business has been not only about, jewelry, but about making people feel special. Since I was a kid, I've always loved making people feel beautiful no matter what they look like. And that's super important to me. And so, when I brought up to my sibling, my sister, I was like, how about we do one of a kind pieces? Like, it never gets replicated, it's just one and done. And she was like, I don't know if that's going to be good for business, but let's do it. And that really helped me find the people that needed to feel that way. You know what I mean? That needed to
Yeah.
feel like they had something special. And I've somewhat changed it a little bit now. Like I do have majority of my pieces are one of a kind, but I do like because I've gotten tons and tons of DMs of like, I want that, I need that. So
Yeah.
I let my lady luck friends, is what I call them. I let my lady luck friends decide which pair of earrings out of a collection of like 60, there'll be like one or two that I do made to order, and there'll be multiple of them. Um, and probably only like 5 to 10 of that one piece. That way, like, people still feel special, exclusive, but they have more of an option to grab the one. And it's usually everybody agrees on the ones that they want
Isn't
made
that
to order.
funny? Yeah,
I love
I think it's so cool that like hearing your story about how you've kind of developed this aesthetic and style because they truly are so organic and like these little works of art. And even within the
you.
marbling and the color selections, all of that, I think, each piece still feels unique. And that's something that
Yeah.
has always been really important to me and my brand. And I love that you've talked about how it really helped allow you to find your audience and to find the
Yeah.
people who needed your product because of course there's tons of jewelry companies who it's that cookie cutter mold and you can literally see on Instagram on the reels and on the process videos which are beautiful in their own way but you can see it's
Yeah.
literally a cookie cutter of the same shape being imprinted over and over again so there's something very tangible about the message and it's very clear obviously when you're wearing them that you're making a statement and they are these little kind of works of art that get to live up by your face and like you said can totally
Yeah. I love that.
transform can totally transform an outfit so I see how you've taken that concept and really turned it into this business model that to your point it may put some people off in regards to well can we scale this can we grow this but it sounds like you're so focused on your core mission and message and that's really
Yeah.
why you got invested and started in the brand it could have been any medium outside of earrings as well you would have been integral to that message no matter what you created
100%. I mean, yes, is it the wisest thing for the bottom dollar to make one of each piece? Absolutely not. But to the people that truly love this brand and what I have to bring, like it's what makes them feel special. So who am I to say, okay, ultimately you're going to do whatever you want to do for your brand. You're going to have whatever voice you want to develop, and whatever message you want to
yeah
push out there. But in reality, like I always bring it back to that. This business could change, but the message behind it is will always say the same. And that's that we're all individual. We're all like when people say the world doesn't revolve around you, actually it does. Like from my perspective, the world revolves around me. Everyone's moving around me. I am special. You are special. My children are unique and special in their own way. Why not have, clothing or earrings that make them feel like the hottest thing when they leave the house and they know they're the only ones that got it? It's like, I feel like it's like Michael Jordan energy, like maybe not Michael Jordan, but there's some sort of energy in there that's like, you are special, you're one of a kind because you truly are. We have similarities, but we're all different. So why not celebrate it?
yeah I love that and I feel like I couldn't have said it better myself but I agree with absolutely like everything that you're saying um was there something in your childhood or growing up or like how did you become so passionate about sharing and spreading this message
Um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've always been an empath. I mean, I think that's something that is a birthright. It could be good and bad. I'm one of five children. I'm gonna say five because I think it's five. We don't know. I am also Caribbean, so if you know Jamaicans, you know Jamaicans, like 100%. But with a lot of siblings, sometimes you can get bunched together, right?
yeah
Whether it's for good or bad. And like, even in my parenting, I feel like it is super important to identify that each one of your children are different. They need different things from you. As a human being, I'm different than your last relationship or friendship. I deserve for you to look at me with fresh eyes. And I think that my whole life I'm not like a middle child, but I'm like the youngest because I have a blended family, but I'm like the youngest, but yet the middle of the girls. There's like a bunch of different dynamics. And I've always, you know, loved the fact that like I'm different from my sister. We
Yeah,
have very similar voices. Like when we talk, like you kind of can't tell us apart. But we're all so different. I think that's something that should always be celebrated. I think it's something that we don't celebrate at all. And I do think because I am biracial, like I was always different, whether or not, I was, either too black to hang out with the white kids or too white to hang out with the black girls. Like that was, or the white girls and the black girls, that was like a thing for me. And I'm like,
yeah.
why too often do we like condemn people for being different? Instead of realizing it brings us together and makes us special, like, you know,
Absolutely. I think kind of all of those stereotypes, and those blanket statements of lumping people together, like you either have to be this way or that way, or, speaking about coming from a big family and, being somewhere in the middle and trying to identify with, the family unit, but also trying to find your own autonomy and your own individuality. You can see all of that like coming through in the brand you've built. And I think that it's really, really cool how, a consistent message that I keep hearing is that you continue to kind of lean into the challenges and see them as opportunities. And, in the end, really get to celebrate that. And that is what makes you different. And that's, all of our individual stories is what makes us different. And that's what I'm really passionate about sharing and telling is, the entire creative journey and kind of how you like the transparent, road to how you got to where you are today. So I think it's really cool that you talk about having a career in an industry that had nothing to do with jewelry design, but yet how that
yeah.
led to where you are now, and even kind of talking about the evolution of your brand as you continue to move forward. And being really open-minded to where it might lead or where it might go. Do you have any ideas about where you're headed or any big visions, or are you kind of just going with the flow and rolling with it? I think it's helpful for other creatives to hear just from like a strategy perspective or like a thought process, like where other creatives are at in their headspace.
I would say, I think for me, I pride myself on not focusing. I mean, I have goals, right? Like for me, on December 10th, one of my goals is coming true, right? So, well, it's more of like a dream come true for me because I'm having a pop up in Nordstrom. So, after giving
Wow.
Nordstrom the
I just
blood,
got the
sweat, and
chills.
tears, like it's a huge like I mean, I could cry, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
cry. It's a huge moment for me because I totally love the Nordstrom Brothers. When I
Yeah.
tell you I love them, I learned everything about my customer service and you can ask about 99.9% of my customers about my customer service and I pride myself on that Nordstrom customer service. And I learned a lot from them. So to have my work now be in the store and even my old regional, because my husband still works for Nordstrom, he came up to him and they were talking and he asked how I was doing and he's like, well, she's about to have a pop-up here. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting, that's so great for her. Like for me, those are one of the things like I envisioned for myself and I made happen. But I think as a brand, like I've never put brakes on opportunities. I've always stood my ground when it comes to things I'm not willing to compromise on, and how I sell my art or how I present my art. But I don't take any cards off the table because, like as you can see, I thought I was going to be in the corporate office for Nordstrom. I thought I was going to be a tattoo artist until I got pregnant with my daughter. And all of these things that I envisioned myself doing, as a kid, I wanted to be a brain surgeon to help people. I don't like blood. That's not my thing. There's always been a different door. And, I don't look at things that happen as failures. Like, I mean, if something happens with the world and it makes it hard to make earrings, I'm going to kind of go and search how I can use my gifts in another way. I don't allow myself to get stumped by closed doors. I keep, you know, a lot of faith in myself. And I think that kind of keeps me open for wherever this is going to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I feel like that's almost like a bit of your magic. And I feel like that is, kind of touching on what we were saying earlier, like you're so grounded or like rooted in that core mission and message that again, like you could be selling anything or making anything. It doesn't matter what the medium is or the end product is. It's that message that keeps motivating you and pushing you to just keep saying yes to opportunities that make sense and no to opportunities that don't. And it's funny because I used to work at Nordstrom's too, and so can totally relate to what you're talking
No
about
freaking
from
way.
that perspective. It is definitely like a school, like an education in retail and customer service and all the things related to customer service, but I also feel like there's like another kind of just like level of standard that you get and you experience when you work for that brand. And so how cool to now be a part of a pop-up in that shop and like what a full circle moment for you. That is so, so, so exciting.
I'm like freaking out. I'm so nervous. My husband's like, it's going to be great. I'm like, but my fixtures have to be
Yeah.
perfect. My
Yeah.
signage has to be perfect because
Yeah.
if the visual manager has to come tell me that my signage is not good, then I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm like, the pressure is on and I am living for it. I am like, I'm ready. I
Yep.
have custom tables being made for me. It's like it's a serious next level moment. I'm so
Well,
excited.
yeah, I mean, that is like something that I think a lot of like designers or artists face is like, when you get presented with an opportunity, it's often not about, you already know what you can accomplish, but now it's like this whole new set of challenges where it's like, okay, how do I find out who's going to make the fixtures? Am I going to make it? Am I going to have to contact like a manufacturer? Like, okay, what about signage? Now I need a graphic designer. Do I do it or do I, call on somebody else who's better equipped with that skill set to take on that project? So it is really interesting how, as you continue to evolve, again, it becomes like less and less about the actual product that you're selling and more about how you can continue to expand and propel and push that mission forward.
Absolutely. I mean, every earring I decided after I first started working, and I had my challenges. I didn't know about the best clay to use. And so I had
Yeah.
to remake a lot of my customers' earrings in the beginning. And that's one of the things, like if you get something and it is damaged, I'm 100% free of charge. You don't pay for shipping. Like I'm going to get you your remake out and send you a coupon like with it
Talk a
as
little
well.
bit more about that. Yeah, because I think like, obviously you're in this place now where you've arrived at like such an awesome level of success. And I want to talk a little bit more about some of the roadblocks or some of the challenges that you faced along the way. You said kind of coming out of the gate, although it built slowly, like your audience was very responsive to you and you incorporated them into that process. So, what are some things that you maybe learned along the way that either you would do differently moving forward, or it was like really important for you to kind of get to that next level to fail in order to succeed?
Well, I think it's listening to, the people that are purchasing your work. I mean, like hearing what they're saying to you. Like, if they're disappointed, you're disappointed. Like, how can I do this better? How can I change your impression? And not that like the world does not revolve around everyone else for you, but like everyone that experiences my energy and what I put out, my art, like I want it to open doors for them. And so, there were times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. You know, like let's talk about the post office losing packages and having them show up like 2 months later, and what can I do to ensure that, this doesn't happen again. And it wasn't actually until recently that I spoke to some of my lady luck friends, and we talked about, okay, like insurance has to be, and if you buy, priority shipping, that comes included, but like insurance needs to be a thing because, money does not grow on trees. It doesn't grow on trees in your backyard. Like this is someone's dollar, and we, as makers, as creators, like we have to continue to maintain like a gratefulness with people. So when you get hit with roadblocks left and right, it can be very defeating. But you have to use those things as lessons, right? Like how to be better. There were lots of broken earrings, lots of manufacturing, like the backs of my earrings, some of them would fall off. So now I'm like really tedious about trying to like check each back when it goes on an earring, to make sure it has enough grip, or, trying out new products. I mean, and also sharing feedback with people that I buy stuff from is like, that's so super important. Too often we kind of just like chuck it to the wind, right? You know, it's not fair to the person spending their hard-earned money. You know, um, there was challenges with being in an RV. Like my first year of business, year and a half of business, I didn't have any space to put packaging. And so I would have to Amazon my packaging every time we stopped somewhere. So I was in Louisiana and getting, packages sent to the state RV park that we were hanging out at. And we had to like spend extra money. Like my overhead was a lot higher because I
Right.
couldn't order things in bulk. And that was one of the challenges that was like a struggle because, I think with inflation and with how things go in that sense, like, do you charge the people more or do you take a bigger cut? And I feel like that has to be a decision that you make. Yes, when my earrings got bigger, my prices got more expensive, right? Um, but I tried to always like, I'll take the L. I'm not going to have my customers suffer because, I'm traveling all over the country, and you know what I mean? Like that overhead thing was a big deal for us, but we've kind of like, I have a great support system. And again, like you have to talk to your customers. You have to let them give you feedback and tell you when, all right, girl, you're slipping up, like you're not paying attention, and it hurts. You cry about it because you're pouring your love into these things, but you got to hear it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably like no better lesson when you're first starting, and the way that you started is so interesting and so unique. Obviously, starting out of an RV, you had an entire different set of challenges. But I think continuing to just listen and take in that feedback. And I know you also mentioned like even, giving that feedback to other makers that you purchase from and how important that is. And talking about like when you purchase from a small business or a maker or an artist versus like a larger corporation, you truly are purchasing from the hands and the heart, and the mind
Yeah.
of an artist. And so I think that there's this other level of sustainability that I like talking about where it's not necessarily like, you know, are the materials 100% sustainable, but also like just purchasing with purpose and purchasing from
Yes.
artists and purchasing pieces of art that you plan to have with you or hand on to your kids or talk about or conversation starters. And I think that oftentimes fashion, trends, like we talked about the polymer clay earring trend, it can be seen as something that you purchase and throw away. But I think what's
Yeah.
really cool about the message that you're putting out there, sustainably in your own way is this is a piece that you want to live with the consumer for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's also too why I don't have so much inventory on hand. I
Right.
mean, it's one of the big reasons why I do made to order because, I
Yeah.
mean, polymer clay is a form of a plastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the plastic that comes off the wrappers, I mean, it can be, I mean, you could be extremely wasteful. I use a lot of my scrap clay to make my mixed prints. Like, it's very easy to become extremely wasteful with a business like this, and we have to do better. I mean, I don't know how else or what else people need to see for them to realize that, like, we have to do better. You know,
Yeah.
we have to be, 100% considerate, or not even considerate, aware when we're purchasing something, like, is this something that, and it's also too why I don't do a lot of holiday, I mean, I love like the snowman earrings, and I love the stuff that like is super, quirky and cute,
Yeah.
but that's going to be something that someone can wear once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it takes up space. I am a big lover of, taking stuff to thrift stores or
Yes.
repurposing. Like, that is, I mean, you can ask my kids. I don't buy them. I mean, they each have, and we kind of did this for the RV as well. They each have like 4 bins, little IKEA baskets of toys.
Mm-hmm.
They have a dollhouse, but we give away like every year for their birthday or Christmas, like, and we mainly do experiences, right? Like memories,
Yeah, I love that.
outings, and stuff like that, because all of that stuff goes to waste. I mean,
Yep.
I can't count the number of times my mom used to come into my sister and I's room with a garbage bag and just be
Yeah.
like, I'm done with it
Yeah.
being this messy. Everything's going in the trash. And you look at all of those dollars wasted
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, there's children that would die for those things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know what we need to do though.
It's definitely an important message. And I think it's, I don't know, I think often we talk about like a lot of the manufacturing efforts in regards to sustainability or going green. But I think that it is the other side of it that's really important is to talk about, how we purchase and the decisions that we make and our intention behind them. So I think it's really cool
Absolutely.
that you're promoting that message as well. As we wrap up here, what is one or what is something that you would like maybe the world or your audience on social media or even the Ola Guapa audience who might just be introduced to you for the first time? What is something that you would like them to know about you, your brand, any kind of message or inspiring thought that you'd like to kind of leave us with?
I would say, you know, really take the time to find your peace, take the time for yourself in everything you do, but also really invest in relationship. Whether you have a business and you're struggling, reach out to somebody. I mean, I think what social media has done for the good is made it really easy for people to just have conversations like we are now, and to like take stuff from each other and learn from each other. But I also think sometimes it takes away from that. And people think, oh, because I'm seeing what these people are doing, I don't need to reach out to them. But take the time, because you can learn so much from people who have done it, or there's things that you can share that they may not know. Like, don't worry about if somebody else is doing it already. Like, they're
Yeah.
not you, you
Yep.
know? And my biggest, like, the thing I live by and my quote is like, there is only one you.
Yep.
Like, yes, you have children and they become spawns of you. It's crazy and humbling, but there is only one you, and you have something to give the world, and the world has something to give you back. And to be open to all of that.
I love that. Yeah. And just so the audience does know, like I reached out to you on Instagram, fell in love with
Yeah.
your brand and started following you and just popped into your DMs. So like now we're here having this conversation and hopefully this conversation gets shared and other people can take what they need from it. But I do think it's such a good point where it's like, often we we can talk about the negative side of social media, but it is really important to touch on the positive side too, and how, you can create
Absolutely.
human connection. It's just how you choose to look at it and how you choose to utilize it.
I mean, yeah, we're friends now. Like we're friends,
Yes.
we're friends now. If you ever need anything, I mean, that's the thing, like be open, continue to spread positivity because this right here, this is two business owners lifting each other up. I mean, that's really what
Absolutely.
it is.
Yeah.
If we don't do more of this, if we're too worried about, oh, do they have enough followers
Right.
or stuff like that, like I have friends that are makers that may not have the same follower count that I do, or they have a lot more than I do, but that doesn't mean we can't like give and take from each other. We can't lift each other up. Like find somebody to do that with. It's really important.
I thank you so much for listening to the Ola Guapa podcast. I hope you gained as much value and inspiration from today's episode as I did. If you love what you heard, please make sure you rate and review this episode wherever you're listening. It really helps to spread episodes like this one to other creatives looking for their daily dose of inspiration, and I would be forever grateful. But before we go, make sure you head to olaguapa.com to discover my very own passion project, Guapa, a small batch slow fashion line. Each piece from the collection is artist made in San Diego, California, and designed to inspire your next creative adventure swim, sweat, street, or studio. With that, have a beautiful week, Guapas. And as always, sending you tons of inspiration and lots of love.